What's good, you guys? Making a video this time around on how I landed each and every single one of the high ticket sales jobs that I've had over the last 2 years up until the one that I'm still working today. So I'm going to break it down step by step, give you guys as much detail and insight as to how exactly I managed to land these. So let's get into it. Little preface here. Coming into high ticket sales, I had previous sales experience in a different industry. It was roofing, estimating, door to door type stuff. I was the top sales rep there for the last 12 months that I was there. I also had built a very small personal brand around sales, which in some of these I did use, some of them I didn't. I did buy into a coaching program slash network to expedite the results, and it was mid four-figure investment. And at times here, I mean, you're going to see, you probably see them now. There's a lot of jobs. I was working like 2 or 3 at a time. Right now, I'm only working one. And that's, if you can find one good one, that's what I would recommend every time. So let's get into it. As I was in the roofing sales job and I discovered this high ticket sales stuff, I bought into a program, a social media growth program, and it was $5,000. And, I didn't really intend on landing a sales job out of this. I was trying to grow the Twitter around the sales stuff, and just bumped into a lot of high level people, business owners who had sales teams or were looking to start them. So once I got inside, I branded myself as the sales guy in the group. I think I was the only one. Everyone else was a little bit older, had their own businesses, and I was like trying to transition over. Some member in there, he mentioned that he was looking for a closer for an agency that he ran. I messaged him, hopped on some calls, got hired on part-time because it wasn't a full-time type role. And I started taking this guy's calls alongside the roofing job. And I did this for a few months, but this one didn't really pan out to be that much. I was there for 3 to 4 months. It just wasn't a priority for him. And I went on and I found better opportunities. So the very first one that I got, it wasn't because I went and applied for a sales job. It was because I bought into a network and I kind of positioned myself amongst people who are needing sales talent. The next one, the one that I got in with a YouTube coaching company, this was like the first real high ticket sales job that I had. I was a closer. What I did is I bought into a sales training program, or like a sales high ticket sales program, right? It's not all training, but it was a community and all this stuff as well. I applied to an open role inside. I secured an interview. I originally got disqualified on the interview for the lack of high ticket sales experience, which is something that you guys are going to see today if you're coming in from a different industry. What did I do to eventually get hired on? Well, I followed up twice and I got put on a 1-week trial because we had a good interview. I just didn't have the experience. So like, man, we had a good interview. You were the only one who followed up and you followed up twice. Let's put this guy on a trial. So I got on a 1-week trial, and on this trial, I quit my roofing job because I had gotten the proof that I needed that, hey, this is legit. And whether, I was going to make anything close to what I was making in roofing, which was a decent amount, I knew that if I could give this my full attention, and I had money saved up, if I could give this my full attention, I could make it work because I knew there was others who were making it work. So ultimately, the things that played into me getting hired on this when I probably shouldn't have been, they somehow saw my tweets. And at the time I had maybe 1,000 followers. Like I didn't have that much, but I was tweeting about like sales and my experience in that. I followed up twice. Nobody else did. I committed in the sense that I quit my roofing job. I was like, hey guys, whether this works out or not, I'm just showing you that I'm serious and I'm going to make this work, if it's with you guys or if it's with somebody else. I was also thrown in with a referral from the sales training program, which helps a lot. And then I had a close during the trial, which was kind of the test that they put me through. It's like, hey, put you on the trial. If you can close, cool. If not, you got to go. So this is the first role that I had. Made my first like decent money in high ticket sales. And I did this for a little bit here. Then I moved down with the same company as sales coordinator and setter manager. So the team was expanding. They didn't have anyone to oversee the appointment setting. And so started off with just myself figuring out the systems, and then we brought on 2 others, and then I was kind of overseeing that. I was also managing all the calendars of the closers simultaneously here. So we had like 4 or 5 closers, and I was just making sure that all the leads were qualified, they were going to show, um, and that we didn't really have dead space on the calendar. So I was managing this. It was actually, these two was more work than just like being a closer, taking 8 calls a day. But I was already on the team as a closer. There was an opening for both of these roles that presented itself as the team grew. And I did keep closing part-time. Like when there was no calendar space, I would take the calls um, while I was growing this. But this was kind of an easy entry point. We had a lot of closers. There were some real killers on the team who had been in high ticket sales before. I was closing around 20%, but I wasn't at the top of the leaderboard by any means. So it's kind of a natural progression to move into this. And I was happy to learn like complementary skill sets as well. So eventually I backed away from the YouTube coaching company, just didn't really align with what I was looking to sell 100%. So I landed a job with a real estate coaching company. This one was pretty short, as I soon found out it wasn't the best opportunity, or it wasn't the opportunity that they were advertising. Um, there was a pretty big name tied to this coaching company that if I mention it, I'm pretty sure everyone on here would kind of know of that person. But got into this through Closify. So Closify back in 2022 was a free platform where business owners would go and find sales reps, right? And so you make a profile on there, you put how much you close, closing percent, a little bit about you. And I was on there. It was free. Closify is still around, but it got sold, and now they charge the sales reps, and they restructured it. I can't vouch for it now, but I can vouch for it last year. Based on my resume, this company reached out to me to schedule an interview. I interviewed well, and I was hired. I can't remember the timeline, but it was very quick. They hired 4 people on. All 4 of us didn't, like, we left after 2 weeks because they grossly overestimated the opportunity. But this is what happens in high ticket sales when you're new and you're figuring it out. Like, this is part of the game. So this one didn't really go anywhere. But another big team that I worked for, or like a big as far as my experience and my progression in high ticket sales, was there's a fitness company. I also found them on the Closify platform, but I applied to their job posting. I hopped on a 30-minute call with the founder. I was hired on that call. I onboarded over the next week and started taking calls. This is the offer that I closed on for most of 2022. It was a really sweet offer, $4,000 price point. I got 17.5% commission. I would take 3 to 5 calls a day, and I'd close at like 35%. So I went on. They hired, I think, 3 reps at the same time. Once we kind of saw like who was performing the best, they cut the other reps. They kept me, put an appointment setter under me, and then I worked with them for most of 2022. Great guys. Again, Closify platform. It was free back then. Can't attest to it now, but that's what that looked like. So then I was like, all right, guys, I've got the closing stuff down. I've got my wings. I'm feeling more confident as far as the one call close model. I was like, I want to go sell more expensive stuff. And then I moved over to a B2B lead gen company. And this is where, like, we're about a year in, maybe a little over a year. This is when the network really started paying off. I got connected on Twitter with somebody who was looking for an American sales guy. So it was a company based in Europe looking for an American sales guy. Originally, I think they were coming to me to find somebody else, and I saw the opportunity, and I was like, "Hey guys, like I'm looking to level up here and sell something bigger and better. Let's talk a little bit." So I told him I could manage the role myself. It wasn't really an interview. I started within a week. We just hopped on a call, and he was like, "Yeah, this by this point my brand had kind of grown a little bit, but the brand is the resume. If you guys are going to be doing high ticket sales, I'd highly recommend that you just post something somewhere. You don't need thousands of followers, but if you are posting about stuff that and it's somewhat decent, it will help. They don't And none of these companies, I don't think any of them asked me for a traditional resume. So no interview, started within a week on that team, closed for them for a little bit. And at the same time, we'll get to this, but I actually closed for a B2B content agency. So this was like part-time. This was part-time at the same time. And this agency owner was referred to me on Twitter for sales talent, something I'd usually throw in the community, but I had the calendar space myself and I liked the guy. I had seen him around, like I knew he was reputable. I told him the role was interesting. I'd potentially consider it for myself. Got on a call with him. I agreed, or we both agreed to have me give it a shot. And again, there was no traditional interview. I landed the role right then and there, but it was like, hey, here's some information about the role, so you can tell your guys about it, or tell somebody you know about it. And I was like, hey, man, this sounds pretty up my alley. I have the availability. Why don't I just do this for you? And so I was working this one part-time. At the back end of working both of these part-time, I interviewed for what might be the largest fitness coaching business in the world. A recruiter posted an open role. That role made its way into my community. I submitted my application and had an interview with one other candidate. It was like a small group interview. I leveraged my prior closing and fitness experience from this company, and I think that was really attractive to them. I aced the role play, and I was offered a job that night, but I ultimately did not accept because of the calendar requirements that they were needing. They were needing like 8 to 10 calls a day, and I just didn't have it in me with all this other stuff that I was doing. This is the same role. I filmed an interview with a gentleman named George like a week ago. He's been on this team since January 2023. He's going to make 200K this year. Like, he's made over 20K the last 6 months. And recently I had dinner with one of their closers. He's been clearing like 40K a month there. And it's a really serious role. I'm not gonna name drop, but if you're in fitness, you know who this guy is. So I turned it down, but I wanted to include it just to show you guys like how I got the offer in the first place, right? Next, leading up to kind of present day here. By this point, I've been running my sales community for a while. Community members are throwing their own jobs and opportunities and stuff in there. And a community member posted, I think it was an Instagram story by the founder of this agency. And that guy then went on to go work with him a little bit after the first post. More community members went on to work with him under different roles, closers, setters, different parts of the world. And then they posted an open role for an American closer, where one of the guys in my community made 7K in a week on his fourth week or something. That 7K in a week, I don't know if it was a fourth week, but it was like first month or second month. And he was like, yeah, this is legit. This is awesome. So I got on a call with the CEO and the original poster of the role in my community. And it was super chill, super relaxed. It wasn't even an interview. It was like, oh, so you're interested? Like, when can you start? And that, it's kind of a byproduct of building the brand and getting connected. Because for, this role, I didn't really have a traditional interview. I kind of came in off of the brand and a warm introduction from people that I knew. So now to this day, I'm not closing for them anymore, but I was until I became like head of sales for them. So now we've got like an 8-person team that I'm kind of helping oversee and grow and all that stuff. But, I was doing decent as a closer. I was doing pretty solid work. They kind of knew that I was tapped into these sales teams. I've seen a lot, and I was pretty familiar with growing the sales efforts amongst other offers. My calendar space, because of the other stuff that I'm up to, was not as open as the other closers. So I pulled somebody from my community, replaced myself as a closer, and then once I freed up that space, I moved up to head of sales to kind of alleviate some of those duties from the CEO. So this is where we are. I'm about 2 years in. I've had, for a long time, I was with this company. For a long time, I was with this company. And now for a while, I've been with this company. All these other ones is kind of transitory, but again, just showing you guys how I landed these roles. how you can land these roles. I would say the biggest things that you're going to need are familiarity. Like, you have to be able to talk the talk, walk the walk. You need to know people in the space, because the best stuff, it doesn't just get thrown into a Facebook group. I mean, there is good stuff, and I know guys making great money working Facebook group opportunities, but the best stuff comes to guys like myself or other people in the space who have networks like this, because these business owners don't want to interview 1,000 people who aren't qualified, you know? So guys, to wrap this up, you don't need a brand to make it happen. You don't need to be the best closer in the world, but you do need to know people, or know exactly who to target for outreach, how to target them, and how to do it at scale without sitting there on your phone sending messages 10 to 12 hours a day. I can help you with 3 of these things, but building a brand, I'm happy to give you some pointers, but like, that's not really what I help people with. So if you guys do want to get 2x results in half the time in a sustainable manner, and not get into high ticket sales and in 3 months say, oh, it's a scam, it doesn't work, because you just couldn't find a good opportunity, serialsalescommunity.co. Been running this community for the last year, almost a year and a half now. We've helped a lot of guys get hired, a lot of guys make a lot of money. It's serious. And it's one of the best things you can have, one of the best groups you can have in your corner if you're going to take high ticket sales seriously. So guys, if you have any questions on how I landed these roles, kind of how I progressed over the last 2 years, drop them in the comments here, or just DM me on Twitter, Instagram, same handle pretty much everywhere. And yeah, if you liked the video, subscribe, thumbs up, all that cool stuff. And I will catch you guys on the next one.